Krishna, Mataji.
Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Sadhana Mataji. So good to see you after such a long time.
Yes, I'm driving back home. After going to drop my son off, so
Okay.
I can only listen in if you don't mind.
No, not at all. I'm just so happy that you're here.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here as well. Yeah,
there you go.
I was here last week.
I know.
Week.
Yes, I know. Yeah, a week seems a long time. That's all.
It does. Yeah, we missed your talks very much. So I'm glad to be here. I look forward to chapter 15.
Yes, and actually, I'm continuing to do chapter 15 tomorrow, right? Yeah, and I'm continuing to do Glories of Srimad Bhagavatam today. So leading up to Bhadra Purnima, yeah, and then Bhagavad Gita will be tomorrow. And I don't know if I'm broadcasting on live stream, except for somehow for some reason it's not showing up on Facebook again. So just bear with me, dear friends. I don't know why it does that, but it's doing that. I'll have to grab the link from YouTube to post it for those who watch us there on Facebook.
Jai Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Okay, just give me a second till I go there to the live. And where is the live? Contents. Am I streaming live?
Yes, Mataji, it's showing live.
And it's showing you on Facebook? That's not what is happening, right?
Oh, okay. Let me check.
Yeah, so that's the part. It's the part that we need to fix. And
no, Mataji.
Right, so that's why I see something is wrong with Facebook, and I thought it was resolved, but it has not been. Anyway, I just posted that. Okay. Anyway, we won't wait much for Facebook. Time is short. We have an hour, and we'll get going here momentarily after I do this Facebook to the spiritual master. Okay, and let me close these 1 million things that I have open here. So the Bhadra Purnima happens on Monday, and it is actually, we are going to do our offering tomorrow itself. So that has kind of thrown all my plans out of the window, because we need to make that last 1/3 to go and look at how we are doing this Bhadra Purnima. So I had some. Okay, let's see where we are. Good. So let me close. I have far too many things open. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. Yeah, so when I work, there are a lot of things there, and I don't want them to be open here because they will cause problems for me later on. So just bear with me for a few more minutes here. And so we had a Sangha with our Guru Maharaj today, so I'm just kind of running from there to do catch up and then set this up and things like that. So here we are, inching away. So how are you all doing today?
Doing good, Mataji.
Good. Very nice.
Yeah.
It's the grace of the Lord.
It's the grace of the Lord, right? That grace is very much important and very much required, right? Without the grace of the Lord, not a blade of the grass moves. That's what they say, right?
Mataji, I remember every time, whenever the reaction comes to me, you told that we discussed it so many times that you are the doer and the opposite person is the doer. That is the only thing that rings bell all the time.
Very nice. Very nice. That's the way it is. That's the way we try to do. So yeah, so I was doing some work here, and it's important for me to close those windows because we are broadcasting on Facebook, and I don't want those kind of things to be there. Broadcast on Facebook. So let's get going here. And all these can also be closed. I'm almost there, dear devotees. Just bear with me for a minute here. Okay. Here, this one needs to be closed. Okay, that can go there. Okay. So we will get started after these brief prayers to the spiritual master. And good to see you, Archana, here. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we're going to continue on and do the last in the series of glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I had promised that I'll do that leading up to the Bhadra Purnima, which is on this coming Monday. So let's get going there. And so we talked about some of the things in the Bhagavatam, and he was talking about the 10 topics which are covered there majorly. And today I'm also going to talk a little bit about one of the Mahajans, and just relish that part. There are 12 Mahajans, as they talk about. So Mahajans are great personalities. And when we when we read the Mahabharata, in the Mahabharata, there are there are two conversations with Yudhishthira Maharaj, which are very famous. And we know that the Mahabharata is about war, right? So, and about how to live life. It kind of hovers on that plane. But there are two conversations, Narada and Yudhishthira, and then again, Yakshas and the Yudhishthira. And to give you a little background information on what that, yes. So to give you a little bit of a background information on why that conversation was happening between the Yakshas and Yudhishthira. So we know this story and which actually also relates to the Nirjala Ekadashi that we do in the month of June. That is known as Bhishma Ekadashi. So it had to do with when the Pandavas were out in the forests, vanished. And at that time, all 5 of them were very thirsty, and Yudhishthira sends the youngest to go and find where some water is. So they were resting under the shade of a tree, and they asked the youngest to go and get some water. So they went, and they found a little pond from where they could get a lake from where they could get the water. And as they were so thirsty, so they just go down and they're about to drink. And just as they're about to drink that water, they hear a voice which says, "Stop, don't drink." And they're so thirsty that stop, don't drink, because you drink will kill you. And so, but they are so thirsty that they don't listen. And so they drink the water and they are dead. And so when they don't come back for a long time, then Yudhishthira sends, Bhim to go and look for them and say, like, what has happened? And so Bhim also goes there. And by the time, they all are so thirsty. So Bhim also goes there, and he finds the water in the same place, goes there and sees his brothers, dead. And he says, okay, I'll find out about that, but let me bring some water. So the same thing happens to him also. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj, waits some more, and he sends Arjuna, and who meets with the same fate. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj goes there. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, and so he also is thirsty. So he also goes down to drink the water. But he hears a sound that comes from up the tree saying, like, wait. And so Yudhishthira Maharaj waits, and he doesn't drink the water. And so he asks that voice that, who you are. And then it turned out that there were some yakshas who were living on the top of the tree, or who were situated in the top of the tree. And they were the ones who were asking all these questions. So then they say that we will not allow you to answer to drink the water from here, but you have to first answer our questions. And while the other brothers did not listen to that advice and were dead, Yudhishthira Maharaj, who was known for his patience. And so one of the lessons that we learned from our scriptures is about patience. And so he then asked the question, and then one of the first questions that the Yakshas asked him is that, Pantha ke, what path should we follow? So that's a question that we are also faced. And we can read the Srimad Bhagavatam to get to know the ultimate path that everybody should follow. And as I was mentioning, that when Sukdev Goswami was narrating the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, there were many other people who were there in the audience, and to cater to the questions or their level of consciousness, Sukadeva Goswami actually starts with saying that you can look at God in the nature around you. So, and that's the first step in godalization. So that is one path that one person can follow, is to, go and explore the nature, Sankhya philosophy, and then from there, try to find God like that. So when Yudhishthira Maharaj was asked this question, that what is the path that I should follow? Yudhishthira Maharaj said, Mahajana yena gatha sapantaha. So he said that that you should follow the path that is being followed by the Mahajanas, the great personalities, right? So then, of course, the question for us, the question that we will ask is that, so who are the Mahajanas, right? So there are numbers there, like there are 3 gods and 3 modes of material nature, 4 Kumaras, 5 Pandavas, like that. So Mahajanas, how many Mahajanas are there? Do you know? Did you hear from anyone? How many Mahajanas are there? Anyone
I think
heard?
Mataji, 9. I'm not sure, but I think 9.
9, okay. Anybody else wants to add or subtract from 9? To come to the Mahajana count? No? Well, so the 9 that you mentioned are Nava Yogendras. Kavi, Sri Piplayana, like that, right? So 9 are there. They talk a lot. They are sons of Maharaj Bharat. And so they talk a lot in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Mahajanas are a little bit more. Mahajanas are 12 in number, and they are mentioned in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm just going to bring up that verse. This is when the 6th canto actually starts with, it's a very interesting thing. And there's so much that you can learn from various, even the narrations and the incidents that happen in Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you go to the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and somebody had asked this question, and I think it was Vindhyavali Mataji who had asked that question. And so the question was that, where are the hellish planets described? I want to read about them because I did mention a little bit on them last time, right? So can somebody tell me in which canto of Srimad Bhagavatam are the hellish planets described?
Mataji, 5th canto, I guess.
5th canto, exactly, for 750 points, right? And which chapter, right? So if you don't remember the chapter, at least remember this, that the hellish planets are described in the last chapter of 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So after the hellish planets have been described by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, and we would immediately start thinking about, so how can I avoid it, and how can I, and how do I? It's more like I, right? But Parikshit Maharaj, who's a pure devotee of the Lord and has got so much of compassion in his heart for everybody, right? So he asked that question that, oh, these poor people, these poor souls who are there lodged in the hellish planets for eons altogether, very, very long period of time. How can they get out of that, right? What is the remedy for them? And so that's when the 6th canto starts, and which kind of, so obviously the only way to get out of that is devotional service to the Lord. And so from 6th canto, in 6th canto, they start the narrations on how devotional service and how the holy names of the Lord can help somebody who's the worst of the debauchee, the worst of the kind of person that you could ever be, and how by just chanting the holy names of the Lord you get, delivered. And so we get to know the story of, can you tell me, the man who was very, very fallen and he got liberated by the holy name of the Lord? Somebody who was very downtrodden.
Ajamil.
Ajamila. Who said Ajamil? Was it Darshana?
Ajamil.
Okay, very good. Varshana Mataji also. So, so Ajamil got delivered. So the story starts like that. And so when the Ajamils gets delivered from the Vishnu by the Vishnu Dutas, from the Yamdutas are completely bewildered because they just thought that, there's only one big being in this world, or the most powerful personality in this world is Yamraj, because they were Yamraj's servants. And so when they come to realize that there are some beings which are more powerful than the order of their own master, Yamraj, they're bewildered completely, and they go there and they start, asking questions. So there's a very nice narration in the 6th canto where there's some good gyan and some good Krishna katha that happens by Yamraj to the Yamdutas. And so as part of that, Yamraj also tells them about the 12 Mahajans which are there. So I'm going to just bring up those verses so that we can relish that, the 12 Mahajans. And let me share the screen with you. Somebody will have to confirm that you can see it. So let me know. Can you? And what do you see? Sutapa? Do you see something?
Yes, Mataji, we can see that 6.3.3.
All right, fantastic. I was looking for an answer that clear.
Mataji,
Okay.
I have a small, just a small question. Just today morning I was thinking that can I ask this one? Just a small thing.
Okay, let's see. I'll decide to answer it or not depending on whether it adds to the flow. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Mataji. Mataji, so Ajamil was like calling his son Narayan, and he got the liberation. Then we have a person at our home. His name is like Jagannath.
Oh, very good.
I was thinking today morning that we called him so many times. Like he used to help, like if there is a big festival at our house, so he used to help for decorating and cleaning and everything. So we called so many times, means without knowing, Jagannath, Jagannath. So today morning it just came to my mind. Then it is also calling Narayan, and it's the other name of like Krishna.
Yes.
So that is also means unknowingly we called so many times and got the vibration.
Right. Exactly. And that is what it is. It's the power of the holy name. And if you remember that the holy name can be chanted, knowingly, unknowingly, in mockingly. Like if somebody says, hey, you Hare Krishnas, come on, like that, right? Or even if they are singing in a tune, just because they happen to be some singers, and Madhuban me Radhika nache re, right? It's a person not even from following this faith who sings that, right? So you get the Sukriti. The Sukriti is there. And that's why people in India, you'll find that about 2-3 decades ago, they used to name their kids with the name of the Lord. And the idea behind this was that they will always, be chanting the names of the Lord like that. But nowadays, what do? We name our kids after some favorite Bollywood or a Hollywood star, right? So that's a degradation of Kali Yuga that is coming. So, yeah. And and also that's why, it's also said that when people have got names, you don't shorten them. So if it's Jagannath, what you're saying is that one who is the Nath, right? The protector or the caretaker of the whole Jagat, right? Jagat plus Nath becomes Jagannath in Sanskrit. So calling him Jaggu, right? So we don't do that, right? And so that is why also when it comes to naming, but especially you see in ISKCON that you won't name anybody as Jagannath, you'll call him Jagannath Das. So the idea is that you are a servant of Jagannath, right? And you see that in other cultures also. For example, people will be named Ghulam Ali. So what does Ghulam Ali mean, right? Ghulam Ali means a servant or a slave, right? A servant. And Ali means Lord. So Ghulam Ali means he's a servant of the Lord. So calling Ghulam Ali as just Ghulam is wrong because you're calling him a slave. And calling him as Ali is also wrong because he's not God, right? But saying Ghulam Ali is the right thing because he's a servant. Ghulam Ali means, hey, servant of the Lord, like that. So we have to be very careful when we are taking names of the people, and especially initiated disciples, because the names have got a very special meaning to it, like that. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Nothing
Thank you, Mataji.
An opportunity to glorify the names of the Lord, right? So here it says Swayambhur Narada Shambhu Kumaraha Kapilo Manuhu Prahalado Janako Bhishmo Balirvayasakir Vayam. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is telling this thing to the Yamdutas who have come back defeated by the Vishnu Dutas in their attempts to take away Ajamil to the hellish planets, right? So in the 6th canto, 3rd chapter, we hear this, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. So let's look at what does it mean and look at the meanings that are coming up over here. So Swayambhu, Swayam and Bhu. Swayambhu means one who has been given birth to by the Lord himself, right? So who gives birth to Lord Brahma? Can you tell me?
Lord Krishna,
I'm
Garbhodaksha
looking for a more precise answer. It's at this stage, after 3 years into
Garbhodaksha.
Bhagavatam, you have to be more precise. Yeah. Yeah. So Garbhodaksha Vishnu, right? So he's born from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Then Narada. Okay. From whom is Narada born?
From Brahma.
Brahmaji.
Exactly. So he's Brahma, right? And then there are Kumaras. Who are the Kumaras?
Brahma's sons.
Yeah.
They are Brahma's sons. How many are they?
4.
4.
4.
Okay. All right. Kapilaha. Lord Kapil. Does anybody know whose son he is? He's an incarnation of the Lord.
Devatis.
Devahuti, yes. And father?
Kardam.
Kardam. Yes. Very nice. Very nice, Karma. So Devahuti and Kardamuni, like that, right? So then Prahlad Maharaj, right? And whose son is Prahlad Maharaj?
Hiranyakashipu.
Hiranyakashipu. And Swayambhu Manu? Swayambhu Manu? If there's something going on in the back, if you can mute yourself. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so question is that whose son is Swayambhu Manu?
I think Brahma's son.
Correct. Yes, he's Brahma's son. And then who do we have after that? We have Prahlad. So Prahlad, we know, his famous father. Ankita, it's such a delight to have you here in the class. Okay. So then we have Prahlad. And then we have Janaka, right? Janak Maharaj, we know. Whose father is he?
Sita.
Sita's father, right? Bhishma, grandfather, Bhishma, right? And he, whose son is he? Okay, whose father is he?
He did
No
not
one.
marry.
Gangaput. He is Gangaput.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a trick question. Thank you for catching that, Archana. That he is a brahmachari. He doesn't have any kids, right? And he's the son of Ganga, correctly said by Garima. And his father is Shantanu, right? Shantanu Maharaj. Okay. And then Bali Maharaj is there. Okay. Bali Maharaj comes from which lineage? In whose family is Bali Maharaj born?
Prahlad lineage.
The Prahlad lineage. Correct, right? So Prahlad has got son Virochan and Virochan's son is Bali Maharaj, right? And then Shukdev Goswami, of course. Okay, I'll give that to you. The answer is right there in front of you. Is that-
Vasudev.
Yeah, Vasudev.
No. He is the...
Vasudev.
No. Yeah.
He's a
I was asking that
disciple.
Sukdev Goswami is the son of Vyasdev.
Yes, sir.
Sukdev Goswami is the son of Vyasdev, like that, right? And so he is also known as Vaiyasaki because he's the son of Vyasdev. Okay, good. And then let's see, Vayam. Vayam means we. So this is we. It's not that it's multiple. It's like, when people are in an exalted position, like when, and this is more to do with the language. In English language, a king will say, I am doing it, I am seeing it, I am eating it, I'm going to kill you. Like that, a king can say that, right? But when it comes to Hindi, where we make a difference in the way these pronouns are uttered, depending on a person's position. And what I mean by that is that a king will say, Hum Bharat ke Raja hain, right? But hum is plural, right? So when the position is very high, even singulars will use a plural. So that's why he's saying Vayam, So he's not saying us. He's not saying that me, Yamraj, and of course you, all the Yamdutas, we are Mahajans. He's not saying that. Vayam means I, like that. So Vayam. So now let's go and count. All right. So this will be an exercise in arithmetic. Let's see, are they 12? Who's going to count? Anybody wants to volunteer to count? Swambhu? 1. Okay. Then Narada, add 2. Okay, Archana, unmute yourself.
Yes, Mataji. So Swambhu, Lord Brahma 1, Narada 2, Shambhu, Lord Shiva 3, Kumarahas, the 4 Kumaras, Kumara, Kapila Muni,
So add
5, 5, 5,
7.
and
5.
yeah.
How do you add 5?
4, 3, 7.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I got it.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 altogether, Mataji. Till Kapila Muni.
Okay, continue.
Is it okay? 8. And then Swambhu Manu 9. Then Prahlad Maharaj 10. And Janak Maharaj 11. Bhishma Pitama 12. And Bali Maharaj 13. Vyasadev 14. So, but here it is 12, right? Mahajans are 12. So I
Okay,
did some.
Sukadev Goswami, right? It's not
Continue.
Vyasadev.
Yeah, Vyasakihi. He's the son of Vyasadev. Okay. So 13. Yeah, Vyasaki is 13. And then Vayam is who? Who is Vayam?
We.
Who's that we? I told you just now.
Dharmaraj.
Dharmaraj, yeah, Dharmaraj or Yamraj, right? Yamraj, he's speaking to the Yamdutas and he's saying that these and I, right? And I told that when you are in an exalted position, you address hum, right? Hum doesn't mean all of us, it just says myself. So how come we got the mathematic wrong, right? You added and you came up to 14. And although they say there are 12 Mahajanas, right? Isn't that interesting? The Shastras can never be wrong, right? So I just wanted to mention over here, and that is that when it comes to the 4 Kumaras, and let's look a little bit on how all that is going. So let me see, how do I stop the share here? Okay, so when it comes to these 4 Kumaras, let us see how they are born and how much we can learn from their lives about how we should be conducting our lives. And not only their stories in Bhagavatam, you'll find other stories also that relate to some of the decisions that they took. So when Brahmaji is creating, right? So he doesn't have a wife, so he creates things from his mind. And the job of Brahmaji is to find bodies for these souls. And to find bodies for these souls, somebody has to create them, right? So his job is to first start creating a few so that then they will go and produce more children. And that way, the souls are going to get a body in which they can perform, ideally, devotional service. So he's trying to do that. And so the first time he produces from his mental faculties, right? From his mind, he produces children. So now we see that how little we know about how little science these days knows about things, right? And how powerful Brahma is, that he can create from his mind, right? Here the ladies will be like, oh, it's 9 months and after 20 trips to the doctor and this and that, and I want epidural, now it's painful and all that stuff, and now who's going to take care of the baby and all that. Brahma just produces them from the mind. And they are not infants, right? They will be sometimes, some of them, they'll be full-fledged. So from his mind come these 4 Kumaras. And they are exalted souls. The exalted souls, but they are impersonalists. So these souls who in the last devastation, left their bodies. And as Bhagavad Gita says, Neha Bikrama Nasosti Pratyavana Vidyate, that even if you do this much in the devotional service, you will start from that point in the next life. So that's what happens to them. And so when they look at this and they realize that now they've got a new body, so Brahma then says, okay, go ahead, produce more children. And they are like, oh no, we are not going in that direction, because it can be very entangling in a human, in a family, unless you pursue devotional service to the, and keep Krishna as the center of your life. Krishna is the center of your life. You can have as many kids as you want, right? But if he's not, then we can be, and the chances are there that you could slip here and there. So they completely come and they say that, no, we are not going to do it. And so Brahmaji gets angry, and when he gets angry, he his bhrukuti, right? He does something to his eyebrows, like we do when we are angry. And so from in between his eyebrows sprouts Rudra. So today the focus is not on Rudra. Today the focus is on the four Kumaras, right? So when they are born, they're like that. Then they know enough that we should not get entangled. So they refused to get into that business. And Brahma gets angry. So one of the things to keep in mind is anger. And like I said, that anger is the younger brother of desire. So first Kama comes and then Krodha comes. So Kama is you desire, and when the desire is not fulfilled, then you get anger. So when he gets angry, we have to remember that such a thing is also going to happen to us. That if we have too many desires, and when they don't get fulfilled, it's a very normal thing for us to get angry like that, right? So these four boys, they were the instruments of their father getting angry, but they were smart. And we also know that there are other similar instances also, right? On one end, on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is famous for telling you extremes of the stories also. And depending on the situations, different people will react in a different way. For example, when Kumaras were asked by the father to procreate, they say no, right? Similarly, Hiranyakashipu wanted his son to learn politics, military arts, right? And he said no. Right decision. So we have to learn from these things as to how we make the right decisions, right? Then, famous story, same family, Bali Maharaj, right? So Bali Maharaj was told by when Vaman Dev comes there, and when Bali Maharaj is giving away, has a yagya, and he's giving away donations to people, and he turns to Bali Maharaj, to Vaman Dev, and says, "What do you want?" And so Vaman Dev says, oh, and Vaman means a small dwarf. And so he says, okay, I just want 3 steps of land. And Shukracharya, who is the spiritual master of Bali Maharaj. Now, we have to understand that when they use the word spiritual master in English, they are translating the word guru, right? That guru becomes a spiritual master, but that's not necessarily the case. Shukracharya was actually the material spiritual master, like material master for Bali Maharaj. His job was to teach him about the day-to-day things, goodness and badness, yes, and then also how to rule, the politics, those kind of things he was supposed to tell. So in that capacity, Shukracharya was doing the right thing, and he was saying that, hey, Bali Maharaj, there is some trick. I'll tell you, maybe this is Vishnu himself. And he's asking for just 3 steps of land, but there must be something there. There will be a catch. There will be a fine print, right? And so he was vehemently telling him not to do that. But then Bali Maharaj is thinking, oh, so if Vishnu is going to ask me, then I should rather listen to Vishnu. So at that point in time, he even disobeys his spiritual master, so to speak, his spiritual master, right? So we find situations like this. And like I said, on the other hand, we hear situations like how Vyasdev listened to his spiritual master, Narad Muni, and sat down, meditated, and wrote the Bhagavatam. Of course, Ramchandra, who is nothing but the Lord Krishna himself, he obeyed the command of his father and went for exile, right? So depending on what situation you are, what time is it, Satyuga, Kali Yuga, you will make different decisions in life, right? So in this particular case, the Kumaras make the decision. Right? So one of the things to note is that there were 4 Kumaras, right? And if people have 4 kids, nowadays people don't have 4 kids any longer. At least majority of them don't have them any longer. But it was like most of us grew up, from my generation, grew up in families of 7, 8 brothers, sometimes even 4 at least. 4 was like the, otherwise it's all lonely and those kind of things. But anyway, so so when there are kids and the mom is preparing food, and if she makes the mistake of asking the kid, like, let me make something that you like, and that's it. Each kid will want something different. I like this, I don't like this. He likes potatoes, the other one doesn't like potatoes, he wants tomatoes, and why did you put tomatoes, says the 4th one. So it's a complete chaos. So wherever there are as many people as there, as many opinions there are going to be. It's a very famous saying there, right? However, when you look at the 4 Kumaras, the father said, create children. All 4 of them, did not. So there is a unison in their mind also. They are united in their minds. They think like the same. As if they are one. As if they are one, right? Sometimes, again, it happens even in a family, like the mother and the father are there and the children are there. And so even the mother and father will not present one view before the child. Mother might want the child to become a doctor. Father might want him to become an engineer. Mother might say it's okay for him to go drive the car by 15. Father might say no, or vice versa, like that, right? So even at that level, there are differences of opinion, and people maintain their differences, and they don't want to surrender to the other one, and they will do and have their own way. And everybody will say something, right? There is, So anyway, for example, when somebody falls sick, right, and comes and says that, oh, I have got this very, difficult disease. And so they will go to their friends and say, well, I was diagnosed with such and such a thing. And immediately you will see that different people are giving them different opinions. Some will say, oh, you got cancer, you must go for chemotherapy. I tell you what, yes, you're going to lose your hair, but that's fine. You should definitely do that because it's, you have to contain it. Others might come and say, don't do that. There's Ayurvedic, ilaj for this. There's a remedy for this. Somebody might say, Ayurveda, you have to put medicines inside your body. I can do it with needles. But you don't have to take other medicines. I will do it with acupuncture needle. So as many people are there, if you put 10 doctors in a room, they will all speak 10 different things. And so what I was trying to say was there won't be any unison of thoughts. But the Kumaras, they agreed on the same thing. And you will also see that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Nav-yogendras, which Varshana Mataji had mentioned in the beginning, when she was counting the Mahajanas, the Nava-yogendras are 9. Nava means 9. And you will see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, that, Havi Uvacha, and then Havi will say something, right? And then the next one said this, Shri Antariksha Uvacha, and then Shri Antariksha will say something, right? So that like they, Kavi Uvacha, so Kavi, Havi, there are 9 of them there. So they all speak. Now you will notice in Srimad Bhagavatam that when it comes to 4 Kumaras, Sanatan is the eldest, and he speaks. The others don't speak because the others don't have a necessity to speak, because they also want to say the same thing that Sanatan is saying. So that much of unison in the mind is there for them. And why does that unison come? Because they are focused on one thing, and that is God. So when you focus your mind and when you make Krishna as the center of your life, then differences of opinion are going to vanish. And the more you're focused on Krishna, the more the differences are going to vanish. The less you're focused on Krishna, there will always be a difference, because one will be going here and the other will be going in orthogonal directions. Idea is that, when there is parallelism, then there is no clash there. So for the Kumaras, and that is the reason that when you read and when you about that verse where we brought up about the 12 Mahajanas, and Archana was counting and she said 4 Kumaras, 1. Like, hey, what mathematics is that? She said, Varshana Mataji, it is 4, 3 plus 4, it should be 7, right? And then we came and said, yeah, that makes sense. 3 plus 4 should be 7. By the time we came to the end of the lecture, we had extra Mahajans in our hand, right? Instead of 12, we had 14. And so we have to also notice that how Srimad Bhagavatam, just by counting them as 1 is actually telling you and giving you so much more information than what you would normally have, right? And that's why there are acharyas who write tippani and, summaries and commentaries on them too, so that we get to read it and we get to understand all that, right? So these four Kumaras. So one thing to keep in mind is that, they are baby boys. They're very small, cute. They don't even wear clothes. They're very sweet, right? And then, of course, Manu is born, full-fleshed young man, right? He also comes from Brahma. Rudra was a small boy, 5 years old or something like that. He was born. So they are born from Brahma's body in different shapes and of different ages, right? It's not like a baby is born here and, a very tiny baby as it happens nowadays. So people at that time could be born at any age, and especially when it comes to the Yajna Putras and the Yajna Putris, they perform a Yajna. For example, you see in Mahabharata, we all saw that out of the Yajna, Draupadi comes out full-fleshed, right? So it's full-fleshed Yuti. So it's same thing happens in the heavenly planets also. In heavenly planets, there's no such thing as an infant being born. The mother has to take care of that. Those things are not there. Why? Because heaven is a place where you enjoy. So who's going to babysit? Who's going to get this and that? Who's going to breastfeed? Who forget about all that, right? The child is born full youth, blooming youth. And also in the heavenly planets, there is also when they say no death, right? So no death, what exactly does no death mean? So there are various gradations that you have of death. So death, people are martya, like you and I. We are in this type of body. I mean, we all know that the soul never dies, right? So that's the eternality, Not dying is one level. Dying is one level, as we do here. And Amar, right? So Amar is something. What is exactly Amar? They say that, I want to be Amar. I want to be Amar. So what exactly were the Devtas doing? We call them the Amar. What were they doing? They were churning the ocean. And we read about that in the 8th canto. And last week I talked about Shivji and how he kept the wish in his throat, right? So they were churning the ocean to get nectar because they wanted to live forever. Now that's not possible, right? So we have that level of, so that they drank the nectar, and because of the nectar, they're going to get a long life, long duration of life. It is so long that from our puny lives that we have, that they appear to be Amar as if they never die. But they do, there is, well, now comes the question, so do they die? Well, there is no death per se as we die in the heavenly planets. They are just kicked out of it. And when I say kicked out of it, it is literally kicked out of it. And that's what I've heard most of the acharyas say in their narrations, that you're taken to one corner of the heavenly planets and say, now, Shine Purne Martalokam Vishanti, now all your credits are done, they're finished, you have to leave. And then as they leave, they will get out of that body and come to rains, they will fall down into a grain, and that grain will be eaten by a man, it will get into the semen, and then they will take birth again, right? It could also be eaten by an animal, and they could get an animal body. So that is that level that is called Amar. And then you also find that our grandparents used to give us benedictions and blessings saying that Chiranjeevi Bhavaha. So what is Chiranjeevi? And how does Chiranjeevi compare to Amar? Right? Apparently it's a blessing. So there's something about a long life which is there, right? So Chiranjeevi is a level that you will get on the higher planets. So there are planets, we talked about the 14 planetary systems which are there, right? Like that. We are in the middle, and the heavenly planets are above us. The hellish planets are way below, right? So they're planets above and below. And so on the higher, even above the heavenly planets, at the higher level, there are planets, especially Brahma's planet, where people are living. So they will live till the universe is annihilated. And at that time, they'll go straight back to Godhead. So for them, is there a death? Yes, there is a death, in the sense that they have to give up this material body, but the next body is going to be spiritual. So when a person is Chiranjeevi, this basically means that you will live in this material body, but after that, you're going to get a Chiranjeevi. You're going to get a spiritual body, like that. And so anyway, so these 4 Kumaras are there, and so they are born of Brahma, and they know not to get entangled. And because they are devotees of the Lord, but believe in impersonalism, so they are curious, and they are, they're going from one planetary system to another planetary system, from here to there. And because of the sheer power of the devotional service, they come all the way to the Vaikuntha planets. And there's such a beautiful description of the Vaikuntha planets in the Bhagavatam in the 3rd canto. And so I had read the hellish planets to you one day. I had also read about the heavenly planets, right, which is still a material planet, but it's heavenly, and that there's more opulence there. And then now, I just want to let you know that there are planets beyond this material world, which has Vaikuntha planets. Those are also very nicely described there. And the interesting thing about that is there's a very famous song in India where they talk about, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama means that I am under the shelter of, I am a surrendered soul to Krishna. I am under his Sharan, right? He's my protector. So Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. So it was all like, the 2 birds on the tree. What are they saying? They are saying, I'm surrendered to the Lord. What does the fish inside the water say? They're saying, I'm surrendered to the Lord, right? It was like, there's a very beautiful song like that. And so, but we don't see that happening over here. So what exactly are the birds talking? When you hear the birds talking in the morning, most likely they are talking the question that, did you sleep well? Did you mate well? Is it mating season? And what are we going to eat? Right? And how are we going to defend ourselves from that bigger hawk that's going to come, or a snake that's going to eat our kids and things like that? So eating, meeting, sleeping and defending are the topics in all the species of life like that. But when it comes to the Vaikuntha planets, right? So when it comes to the Vaikuntha planets, everybody is taking the names of the Lord. They're just glorifying the Lord. And so in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when you hear that they are beautiful flowers, they're beautiful trees, and all of them are singing praises of Krishna. And although they are so very beautiful, it says there, although they are exotic parijata flowers, this flower, kumud flowers, there's so many varieties of flowers which are there, yet, and plants and trees, yet it says, the Bhagavatam says, yet they are aware and cognizant, they recognize the austerities done by Tulasi. So the Tulasi tree, although it doesn't have, the exotic flowers or, like that, right? But they are still, they give reverence to her. And which is something for us to learn, right? That how to respect a devotee. Of course, everybody's a devotee, but then, from the stories that we know, Tulasi is more revered. And so they do that. It doesn't matter whether you are the most beautiful, whether you're the richest or whatever, you will respect the Lord. So very nice description. There's no jealousy there. And everybody is allowed to sing, and they praise each other. So the cuckoo will sing. So it's very nice, her sound is very nice. Coo, coo. That's how she does, very beautiful sound. And then there comes the bumblebee. So like, what sound are you making? No, because they're all glorifying Krishna. So even that sound of the bumblebee appears to be so very beautiful and pleasing to the eyes, and others will appreciate that. And the reason why they're appreciating is that these songs are songs of Krishna. The words are glorification of Krishna. So how can you not relish them? And the reason is that they are at such a high level of devotional service that when people are at a lower level, there are 9 stages of devotional service. So when they don't have a very strong attachment to the names of the Krishna, if they enter into a temple and they find somebody singing over there, And, some old sannyasi comes and he sings, cannot pronounce things properly, and so this person will say, maza nahi aa raha. इससे तो उसका अच्छा लगता था, वो टी सीरीज से सुनाता हूँ, so the reason is that they don't have that much of attraction to Krishna to look at the words and the praises that are being done of Krishna and to relish the praises and for the mind to focus on that. The mind is focused just on the periphery, on what the sound is coming, how much the meter is, and what went wrong, and this and that, like that. So we need to keep that. Again, we have to learn from those narrations which are there in the Bhagavatam, that how should we also behave towards other devotees of the Lord. So these 4 Kumaras are going, and so they enter the Vaikuntha, and it's like, oh, this is something very nice. And there, of course, there are doors there in the Vaikuntha. And as they enter and everybody kind of lets them in. Nobody says anything because some are like, they're kids, they're cute. Let's let them go in. But in the 7th door, they are stopped by 2 gatekeepers. And the 2 gatekeepers are looking at them. They've never seen something like that. Somebody completely nude, right? And they're small kids. What are they doing over here? So they stop them. They bring their spears and they stop them from entering. And so here is also another example. Just to give an example of, we are sitting down, we're very hungry, and we make something very nice, maybe a samosa and a dahi bada, or we take it out of the fridge and some gulab jamuns, and we make a nice thali, and we sit down on the plate, and we are just about to eat. And then the spouse comes and says, hey, today is Ekadashi. Then, anger comes. So then there is something that, you really, really, really want to eat or really, really want to do, and somebody stops you. You don't like it. So the same thing happened to the Kumaras also. So when they were stopped, they got angry. And then they cursed them. And they said, you're going to fall down. And so, when this happens and Kumaras looks at that and they realize that, oh my goodness, they are the Brahmanas and they are devotees of the Lord. And Krishna says that. He says that in Srimad Bhagavatam that, I get purchased by my devotees, So we see that Krishna, that's why doesn't give devotional service very easily to people, because he knows that once a person becomes a devotee of Krishna, then Krishna has to bow down to the devotees. So he says, I don't want to get into that. So anyway, he said that, he becomes, he comes under control of the devotees, and who are his best devotees? The Brahmanas are his best devotees. And of course, these 4 Kumaras are Brahmanas. And so they realize that we have done this, so they fall at the feet of the 4 Kumaras. And anybody sentenced like that, right? Anybody sentenced to banishment from a nice place where they were located, anybody happens to that would immediately ask for forgiveness and say, please reverse the curse. Please let us stay over here. Please tell me of some penances that I can undergo and continue to stay here, right? But these 2 doorkeepers whose names are Jay and Vijay, they fall at the feet of these 4 little Brahmanas, and they say that we take your curse. They are also Vaikuntha-vasis. They could have counter-cursed. They did not do the counter-cursing. They said, we'll take your curse on our head. Why? Because see, they are Brahmanas, and Krishna, loves the Brahmanas. And when I say Brahmanas, I mean Brahmanas not by birth, but by actions, those who do Brahmanical actions. And so they fall at his feet, or at their feet, and they beg and pray that, okay, you have banished us to fall into the material world, we will fall, but please give us the benediction that we will never forget our Lord. Never forget our Lord. And so this is such an interesting thing that's going on in the lives of 4 Kumaras, that they have ascended up all the way up to the Vaikuntha planets, and they have met with Jay and Vijay. And in the Vaikuntha planets, I just described their fruits and their flowers and the bees and all that. And there is, of course, the Tulasi plant is there. And the Tulasi plant is offered also at the lotus feet of the Lord. So all these tulsi feet that are offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, the good aroma that comes from the tulsi leaves, it touches the lotus feet of the Lord. The air that carries that aroma is carrying the aroma of the tulsi leaves that have touched the feet of the Lord. So you can imagine how powerful that aroma is. So that nice smell enters into the nostrils of these four Kumaras. So all that is happening all together, right? That nice smell is coming. There's somewhere somebody's frying gulab jamuns. Oh, wow, I'm going to eat them. And now somebody said, no, you can't go there. You're nude. You don't have clothes. So anyway, so they get stopped and they go there. And so all this is happening all together, right? So first this nice smell is coming, then they are stopped, so they get angry. And then the Dwarpals are saying, please, benedict us that you won't forget our Lord. So you can imagine they're seeing a devotee acting like that in front of them. They're intoxicated by the smell of tulsi leaves. So there is a transformation in their hearts. And at that time, of course, there is more, and all this is happening. And then Vishnu is also coming. He also comes down and they have a nice, conversation. And then, of course, to cut a long story short, we know that they get born multiple times, right, in this world. First as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, then they come as Raman and his brother Kumbhakarna, and then they come last as Shishupal and Dantavakra. And in the last, then they go back to Godhead, like that. In fact, so much was their love for Krishna. And you know that every time that we read the scriptures, we read only bad things about Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. Nobody loves them and nobody wants to be like that, right? So at that time, they had a choice that they could come to this, they could fall into this material world and live 7 lives in this material world, but a good life. Or they could come to this material world and live 3 times they could come here, but live a bad life. And they chose to lead the bad lives. They said, we can't bear the separation from you, Lord, for 7 lifetimes. I will go there and do the 3 bad ones and I'll come back to you, like that. So that is the mood of a devotee that you can glean from in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so all that we need to do is continue to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, distribute that knowledge to as many people that you have, glorify the Bhagavatam whenever you have a chance, and lead a nice life and go back to Godhead. Okay, so I'll stop now over here, leaving a few minutes we have, and if there are any questions. And Sutapa Mataji was very nimble. She pressed the buzzer very quickly.
Yes, Mataji, because I have to leave, so that's thank you so much, Mataji, for a nice explanation. Means, Mataji, that spiritual body means the demigods, or what is the spiritual body?
Okay, I will ask you a question. Who is a demigod first?
Devotee of the Lord.
Sorry, Chitra, are you trying to answer?
Yeah, a devotee of the Lord. Demigods are devotees of the Lord.
Are devotees of the Lord. Okay. And then, so now what sort of body do they have? Next question. Right?
They are comparable to human beings.
So question is that what is the what type of body? Is it spiritual?
It is made of Panch Tattva, Mataji. Their body also.
Simple question, simple answer. Is it material?
Jeev Tat.
Material.
The body is material or spiritual?
Material.
Material. Good, right? Now, Sutapa, does that doesn't answer your question though, but at least it tells you, right? It tells you a little bit. It tells you that the demigods don't have a spiritual body, which means partly answer your question in the sense that spiritual body is not a demigod's body. It tells you what it is not, but it also has to tell you now what it is, right? What is a spiritual body? So I had, like I mentioned, I think you missed that class recently. I think one of the sessions you had missed. So, but I was talking about the spiritual, because when you go to Vaikuntha, you will get a body. Now, in the Vaikuntha planets, everybody has the same body like Vishnu. They look like Vishnu. So that's when you go to Vaikuntha, one of the spiritual. Because when you go to Vaikuntha, you will get a body. Now, in the Vaikuntha planets, everybody has the same body like Vishnu. They look like Vishnu. So that's when you go to Vaikuntha, one of the spiritual. Because when you go to Vaikuntha, you will get a body. In the Vaikuntha planets, everybody has the same body like Vishnu. They look like Vishnu. So that's So Aruni Mataji, I just muted you, and so that you can switch off the YouTube, because it'll go into a unending loop of. So that will be an unending Krishna Katha. Because you will speak and this will listen, and it'll go to the YouTube and it'll listen again from the YouTube, and that's a good way. It's a good Ananta, Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta. But anyway, so yeah, so I was talking about that everybody has a Swarupa. So there is a Sarupya Mukti, one type of liberation where you get the same type of body as the Lord. And so they look the same. They have 4 hands. They look like Vishnu. In the Vaikuntha planets, everybody looks like Vishnu, right? So that's why you see whenever you go outside of the temple, when you see the 2 Vishnu Dutas, that we always see Jay and Vijay, right? Outside the temple, most of the temple buildings, they look like sometimes people mistake that they look like God because they have got that kind of a feature. But when you talk about Golok Vrindavan, right, there people can have a different, they can have a body of a peacock, they can have a body of a monkey, they can have a body of a flute. But because it's the absolute world, there is no difference between this body and that body, but every soul has got a particular spiritual body, which is already defined, which we already have. So Sutapa, when you were in the spiritual planet, before coming here to this material world, you already had a spiritual body, right? So on your way back to Godhead, at some point in your devotional service, you will get to know what your spiritual body is. And that is something that will come from devotional service. It won't be something that somebody is going to tell you that, hey, Satapa, you are actually a beautiful flower in Vaikuntha. Nobody's going to tell you that. You will know from the heart, it will be revealed to you like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Archana Mataji, is that you?
Hare Krishna Mataji, then with pranam.
Then with pranams, yeah.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful lecture as always. Thank you so much, Mataji, for bringing the point about Sanat Kumaras. Like we were not, I was not aware of the fact that they used to think in unison, like they have everything, whatever they used to think, it's all in integrated form. So that's why they are in one. They are not counted as 4 but as 1. So thanks a lot for letting us know about this. And Mataji, like I have a question, like when we say generally desire is the culprit of everything. Like when we desire something, it can lead to anger if it is not fulfilled, like as you mentioned. But Mataji, like when a desire is fulfilled, then it can lead to greed, Mataji. I'm just thinking.
Absolutely. Yes. And it depends on the kind of desire that you have. If it's a material desire, it leads to material greed. And if it's a spiritual desire, it will also lead to spiritual greed.
Which is good, Mataji, right? If you have a spiritual greed.
Exactly. Ekomulyam api lolyam api. It says that, to find the spiritual, to find the Lord, there's only one thing that is required, and that is intense spiritual greed, lolyam. Right? And so spiritual lolyam leads to more spiritual lolyam. I'm doing this much of service, I want to do more. I have painted 1 picture of Krishna, I want to paint 1 more. I have made 20 puris for Krishna, he should eat more. Like that. People die for service, they fight for service, and all that is happening on a transcendental plane. So, that's a totally different ball game there. As compared
to lolyam is Mataji desire only, like lalasa in Hindi we say, right?
Yes. Yeah.
The more you have that intensity to attain Krishna, that's better, right? That's a spiritual desire only.
Yes.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. May I ask a question?
Yes, please. And Archana, if you can lower your hand.
Mataji, whose wife was Saraswati? Brahma's?
We already talked about that. Yes, Brahma's wife is Saraswati. No. Sometimes we see various names given. Yeah.
Yes. So, Mataji, and then these children were born of...
Yeah. She comes later. Remember, he's married. He's just born. He's just born out of the lotus navel, and he has to do his work. He has no time to get a wife. His job is to create, right? So, and he has powers to create. Who needs a wife, right? And then later on, he marries Saraswati. And then,
Then did she get any children?
I don't know that question. Yeah, it's a good one. I
Okay.
don't know. Yeah. And I don't think so, but I may be wrong. Yeah. Because Brahma has got the
never
powers.
heard of.
Yeah, we hear of the 10, 12 people that he had, and then they create. They were actually in the beginning, Manu was not there. And so all these were also sages, but they're coming from his mind, right? And so they're coming from, and so they're good at procreation. They do create, like we have sons of Kashyap Muni, right? Like that we have, but they're not very good at it in the sense that they're not creating as many as are required, right? In this material world. And that's when Manu comes. Manu has got a little bit more he's a little bit more on the worldly side, and he agrees. And Satrupa is also born, and then that style of procreation starts, and they produce kids a lot. And then we come to Daksha, right? Daksha would produce 60,000 sons, another 60, like that, he produces. So the more production happens in the layers, second layer. So that's why when we talk about the topics of 10 topics being discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam, we talk about Sarga and Visarga. So Visarga is secondary creation. So secondary creation also happens in layers. The secondary, tertiary, like the fourth layer and fifth layer, where they start talking about Uttanpad and all that, right? So that all those layers of creation are described there. Yeah, so more happens. Yeah, more happens now. And now everybody produces, right? Here, Kali Yuga.
Thank you so much. Very nice lecture.
Thank you. So I will have to take your leave because it is Vada Purnima, and I have to sit down and make the report. And then also I am preparing for Vyas Puja, celebrations of Vaisheshika Prabhu, which will happen next Saturday. So I won't be able to hold this class next Saturday. So that's the unfortunate part. And next Sunday also, not the coming Sunday, not tomorrow, but the Sunday after that, because he holds a disciple Sangha. And so we are all, we are required to attend that. But then after that, the classes will resume again, at this pace. And hopefully things might get a little better for me at work. I might be able to add back the classes slowly in, but I can't promise anything at this time. There at work, things appear smooth, and then suddenly something goes bad and I have to just drop and do everything over there. But I'm just hoping that things will get a little bit better there.
Missing the classes.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. Okay, I'll take your leave.
Hare Krishna.
Patitanam Pavane Vaishnave
Namo Namaha.
Go Premanande.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat